So please welcome your next comic, the very funny Geraldine Manser.
Hi, thanks for coming out. My name is Jerry. You see my accent's from New York. Lived there 29 years, 25 in Texas, 10 in Connecticut on a farm. And I can't shake the accent. I've been there the longest. But I try to get by. You either like it or you hate it. But speaking of accents, and I'm sorry, Kent, I really thought my daughter and I had a handle on this, but I noticed that you speak that language too. My daughter and I were hearing these two black guys talking. They were very animated, and we were listening, and they were talking jive, you know. We started imitating them at home, you know. And I say to my daughter, it would be easier if she was up here with me, but she's shy. So we'd say to each other, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? My daughter would say, yeah, I know what you're saying. Do you know what I'm saying? I said, I don't think you know what I'm saying because you're not listening to what I'm saying. If you were listening to what I'm saying, you wouldn't be saying what you're saying. And we'd go on with that, and she'd be in the audience, but I'm going to kind of cut it short because I didn't know that other people knew that language. So speaking of... So onward with black people, and no one should get offended because I pick on everybody. Black guy comes into a bar and a woman's staring at him, and she keeps staring and staring. So finally she gets courage to ask. She says, "How big is your chest?" And he said, 44 inches. She said, "Wow, how do you measure that?" He said, "With a tape." So she says, "Well, how big are your arms?" He said, 18 inches. "How do you measure that?" He said, "With a tape." She said, "Can I ask you one more personal question? How big is your business?" He said, 3 inches. She said, "Oh, how do you measure that?" He said, "From the floor." I'm going to tell a few truisms. I don't like to talk about politics because it's a sensitive subject, but I think you'll all agree that there are some truisms no matter what party you're for, no matter what candidate you like. No one's going to take the guns away from Bubba. You can count on that. And also, speaking of Bubba, 2 hillbillies were doing it in the mud. and one hillbilly, male and female, of course. The male the male says to the woman after they're doing it for about an hour, "Is it in yet?" And she said, "No." And he's working at it. He finally gets it in. An hour later, he says, "Is it in yet now?" And she said, "Yeah, put it back in the mud." Now, my very first joke, my older daughter has heard 1,000,000 times, but everybody likes it, so I'm going to say it again. There was an ant crossing a railroad track, and their train ran over its ass. So he turned his head to see what happened, and the train ran over his head. The moral of the story is never lose your head over a piece of ass. And now I'm going to speak about a couple of years ago I had the flu. I had one of those flus that you really couldn't do anything about. There's no medicine to make you feel better. I called the doctor. There's nothing I could do. Just sleep it off, drink a lot of fluids. But I felt horrible. I had congestion, I had sore throat, cough, you name it. I felt weak. So I went back to bed, slept a few hours, got up, and I said, there's got to be something in the cabinet that I could take that would make me feel better. So I'm searching and I find this box, Dayquil. So that's got to make me feel a little better. So I reach in and take 2 capsules. Go back to bed, get back up a couple hours later. I'm feeling worse than ever. And I said, maybe I should have read the instructions. Maybe I should have took more. Or, maybe I should have at least read the instructions. So I go over to the Dayquil box, and I reach in, and I read the instructions, and it's not Dayquil. It's Extends, which is a male enhancement drug. Under no circumstances should a female take this drug. Go, oop, too late. So I don't know what to do. So I call the manufacturer, and it's a Sunday, so they're closed. So then I call Poison Control, and they're very professional there. They try to keep you calm. They don't laugh at you, But I could feel that she wanted to laugh. So I'm telling her my story, and she said, "Well, how many did you take?" I said 2. I was about to take 2 more. she says, well, hold on a minute. So she comes back, and she said, I think you'll be all right. I said, oh, good. You mean I'm not going to sprout one? I'm not going to get hair all over my body? She said, no. And then she laughed. And the moral of that story, it's a true story, it really happened, is always read the instructions and always make sure what you're taking is what's on the box, that they agree. Anyway, so I have a little dog, and he's a long-haired Chihuahua. He's real cute. He's 16 now. He mated with my dachshund once, and then he got fixed. And my Chocolate Point lab felt sorry for him and allowed him to do his thing on her back. And, you know, I never understood that. But anyway, he gives wetback a whole new meaning. Well, anyway, so moving all along. Again, I apologize to Kent. I didn't steal your joke. I had that all written into my act, and my daughter and I really talked to each other, and it's like I'm hearing the same thing we were talking about. But anyway, I came to this comedy center for a defensive driving course one time because I wanted to not have to pay as much on my ticket and get some of the points off. And the driving instructor wanted to make a joke out of me. So without asking me what I did, he said, you know, what are you here for? I said, speeding. He goes, oh, okay. Well, how fast are you going? I said, 17 miles. He goes, oh, you got to slow down. So that's my time. Thank you.